Hey, how's it going? Today's video, I want to talk about how you should not be that teammate. And what I mean by that teammate is the worst type of teammate. So, the first category I want to talk about is gens. The first thing about the gens is that don't do corner gens. The game gonna automatically spawns you at the end of the map. They hardly ever spawns you in the middle of the map. They usually spawn the killer in the middle of the map, or they probably would spawn the killer also on the end. But avoid the gens in the corner because you want to spread the killer out when you pop gens. Think of it like spreading the killer out. You want the killer to walk to a generator. You don't want the killer to like stand still and he can keep his eyes on three gens, or just keep an eye on two gens and walk a little bit to check on the third gen. You don't want to do that, and that's a sure thing. Well, this is a sure way to make sure that you're three genning your teammates. And also, do not pop a gen and then go to the next gen and pop it, unless you're in the middle of the map. If you're in the middle of the map, then that's fine, but a lot of times that ain't the case because a lot of times people would just start off at the corners and then work their way around, and we're pretty much done by the time you get through with the fourth gen. Always go back to the generators. So basically, what I'm saying is, if you're on a gen and you gain some progress on it, and the killer runs you off, you do not let the killer run you off the generator and you go start on a new one. You're killing time and your teammates. Always pick up where your teammates left off. So basically, if you run the killer to your teammate that happened to be on a gen, and then they starting to chase that teammate, you should take it upon yourself to finish off the gen they had to get off of. Uh, don't pop. Do not pop all gens on the same side of the map. Now this is goes to that I-shaped map demonstration. Basically, you can't just pop gens on the top side and then want to move to the bottom side to do the gens. You already three geners if you're doing that. Now the killer has no reason to leave the bottom side. Even if he's chasing you, you want to take him to the top side, he's not going to commit because why? He got three gens to guard down there. So don't ever pop all the gens on the same side. If you notice you're the only one doing gens and somebody else is like doing totems, chase, or following the killer for a flashlight save or whatever, make sure you like go across the map. Uh, Another thing is don't pop gens one by one. A lot of times, you'll think that's the fastest way to get gens done, or you're actually doing something, but you're really not. And the way to pop gens one by one is all three teammates is like popping gens together, but not separately. So if the three pop one gen, they'll probably move to the next gen together and start on it. And you're putting the pressure on the fourth teammate that's probably in chase. So you want to put the pressure on the killer, and to do that, the three of y'all need to be on separate gens. So once you start doing separate gens, then you're putting the pressure on the killer. Now running the killer for three generators is not a problem. The challenge is probably running the killer at four gens because whoever popped their first gen has to know where to go to start on it. Always attend yellow generators. Now there's a perk called Trail of Torment, and what that perk does, it turns yellow. And when you see the perk, when you see the gen being yellow, you want to always check on it because of that possibility of the killer running around with no terror radius. And when the killer is running around with no terror radius, that's pretty much a free hit, unless the survivor is using spine chill, and spine chill is a less likely perk to be used in matches. It's probably used more now that Jason has been added, but it's still going to be less likely to be used by survivors. Now I know a lot of time I use the Nancy perk that turns yellow when I works on it, and no teammate ever comes to the generator. But when I put on Blast Mine and Wiretap, that's when they want to help me with the generators or check on the generators. But it should be when the killer is using Trail of Torment. And the last thing about the gens is please commit to the generator. Always commit to the generator. There's too many instances where when two people is about to pop a gen and it's on like 95% and one person gets off the gen and start running. You do not, on no circumstances, respect the killer. None whatsoever. What you do is you stay on the gen. You stand up to take the hit, and then after you take the hit, you go back on the generator. The killer is going to have to hit both of you twice for a total of 4 hits to stop that gen from popping, which probably is not going to happen if two of you stays on that gen. So even if he pulls one off, which probably unlikely, but let's say he managed to pull one off, he's going to have to drop that survivor to kick the gen. So you're probably going to have to at least take the hit and then get back on the generator. Uh, Usually when the one survivor is left on that generator to try to pop it, it don't get popped. But at least try to see if it's gonna pop. Cause sometimes it pops, sometimes it actually does pop, but it is less likely gonna happen. But you know, it's I guess a coin toss. I guess. But if the teammate gets up and run, that means the teammate that's on the generator by himself is not gonna pop that gen. But if you stay and you stands up and take the hit and then get back on the generator, then the generator is gonna pop. A lot of times you're gonna have to take a hit to do what you need to get done. A lot of times when you play the game, it's gonna require you to take a hit. But try not to get pulled off the generator because if you get pulled off the generator, then the pressure is going to be on that that other survivor you was doing a gen with. Unless three of y'all on that generator, then I guess all men get pulled off the generator. All right, so here I want to talk about how you can be a better teammate. All right, so the first one is you want to unhook survivors like the killer is running Devour Hope. Now the counter Devour Hope is you don't let the killer walk too far away from the hook before you go for the save. You want to go for the save before the killer gets too far. Now, on paper, that probably sounds like a dumb idea, but it's actually uh, not a bad idea unless all of you is injured. But if you're healthy, you want the killer to chase you because he's probably going to hit the survivor off the hook and then chase you. But if he, in case he doesn't chase you after he hit the survivor off the hook, you can, follow the killer and try to body block and get them to chase you. Another thing is stop pre-dropping. There's way too many games where I see teammates pre-dropping pallets, or even waiting by the pallet to drop it when the killer like walks by. And a lot of times the killer just walking by when they throw the pallet down, which means the killer was oblivious to the survivors standing behind the pallet and not knowing they're there until they heard the pallet drop. Until they heard the pallet drop. Uh, a lot of times I leave teammates on hook when I see them do stuff like that. Well, that was a long time ago, but I stopped doing it because this one time I did that. The other teammates wasn't going for the save either, and they end up dying on first hook. So I stopped doing that. So what I probably do now is I'll probably get them off the hook, but I'm not gonna heal them. But learn how to run around a pallet first. Even 50-50 pallet is not worth pre-dropping because the killer does not have to go through the pallet to chase you. Uh, Another thing is taking vaults from injured survivors. Now, a lot of times, the healthier survivor be beating the injured survivor to a vault, like a god vault, a vault that they needed. And they don't really need it first because they're healthy. But they want to make sure they don't get hit and kind of leaving you, throwing you under a bus at the same time. If I see that, I still leave teammates on hook for doing stuff like that. So please don't play that selfish. Don't be the healthy person taking a vault when you and the injured survivor is in chase by the killer. Another thing is not knowing which side to sabo. So this is basically a sabo and a hook. Now, if you see a killer walk into a hook with a survivor and there's nothing behind the hook, that's where you go to sabo the hook. You do not have to take damage saboing the front part of the hook in front of the killer where you can take easy hit. Even using the Alex toolbox with the saw and the wire is still not a good idea for you to do that. So you always go to the back of the hook if you can go back there. Uh, Another thing about being a better teammate is knowing how to body block. Now, um, there are some killers in the game that requires you to body block. Like for instance, going against Legion. A lot of time going against Legion requires you to body block. Because Legion, they have to tag every survivor and then choose a survivor they can hit again to down. But if you're already hit while they're in frenzy, you can follow the Legion around to make sure he don't hit the second teammate or however many people he need to hit. Like if they're running through Killer Shack, for instance, you can stand in the doorway and not move because if the killer hits you again, he's basically out of frenzy. When you're taking the unhook, the killer wants to hit the person who's doing the unhook. So whoever got unhooked might want to take the hit. In the dying state, the killer is going to want to hit the person who's getting up. So a lot of times when you get a teammate up off the dying state, you want to stay behind the person that's in the dying state because they're likely going to be the one they're going to be, beelining for, and they will move around you to get to them. And the last topic I want to talk about is the end game. The end game is probably the most important, probably as important as the gen, but for the end game, what I want to talk about is stop healing across the map. A lot of time when somebody is on hook, the teammate is like they going way across the map to heal, and then they want to go back to the hook for the save. And usually it's too late. Either the teammate is dead or they done went from first hook state to the second. Stop doing that. You're killing. You're you're adding pressure to yourself. And another thing is, do not go into the exit gate to heal, because all you're doing is allowing the killer to push you out of the map. If you have to, stay close to the killer where you can keep an eye on him, but where the killer also can't see you. That's how you're supposed to do that. Never go into the exit gate. I'm gonna have to reiterate that. Do not go into the exit gate for any reason. Unless you're injured and on death hook and you probably just have to go. But if that happened, that's probably understandable. Uh, Always try to rob the killer from a kill. So if you're like the last survivor standing and a teammate is on hook, and you're healthy, you need to find a way to get that teammate off the hook. I did plenty of videos showing how you can do that and how smart you can move around the map to not being seen. So try to rob the killer from his kill just by, beelining for the hook, but not in an obvious beeline. Don't make it obvious that you're going for the save. Kind of like move, alongside of the walls and see where the killer is before you make your move. Uh, Always 99 negates. 99 negate is probably the one thing that's probably controversial because sometimes you don't know when to open the gate. But the best time to open the gate is when you probably see three teammates at the gate. Then you can open it, and three of you can leave, leaving the fourth survivor the hatch. And also check for lit totems that wasn't lit during the game, because that's usually a death sentence when you ignore lit totems at the end game. And pretty much that is it.